We thank Patrick for that report and setting the stage for our discussion this morning. And Patrick has explained largely what the stalemate is about, because the two-thirds gender rule just put in place in the Constitution to ensure that no one gender has more than two-thirds representation, that's elected members in office. And of course, the women in this particular case, the disadvantaged group, and we've seen from the Cabinet Secretary, Devolution and other women leaders come out to protest against that draft bill by the Honorable Chepkonga. Joining me in studio this morning to discuss more about the issues around this particular draft bill is Anna Nyokabi. She is the woman rep Kiambu County. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
So we have two issues here. That what is now bringing this huge concern at this particular point is that Chepkonga wants this staggered, wants this postponed indefinitely. Why do you have a problem with that?
We have a problem with that because it will be a continuous process of ensuring that this two-thirds gender rule issue is not brought into effect. And essentially, when we take a look at the Constitution says within 5 years the amendments must be in place.
Right.
That brings us to August 27, 2015.
Correct.
Clearly, Parliament, you can see, is an institution that is male-dominated, and so there's no interest whatsoever to ensure that the issue of women representation within Parliament takes into effect. The reason that they've come up with all of these excuses because we've been in discussions for the last year and a half, constantly looking at, okay, how do we do this? How do we bring this in?
Yes.
But there has been significant resistance, and you can take a look. If you heard what the Mheshimiwa for Meru said, or Chepkonga said, it will come back to that committee, male-dominated, and they will ensure that they drop it unless they get what? Executive direction.
So what is worrying, however, is that even the vice chair of this particular committee says that she was not, the entire committee was not consulted, they were not in agreement with this particular decision. Right. So how is this working? How is all this working with the committee now about to table this, and all the committee members are not on the same page?
It's a very controversial issue. You've seen that they've tabled 4 times an attempt to ensure that they remove women's seats from the Constitution.
Right.
There will be no agreement simply because there is no interest within Parliament to ensure that women's positions are protected. They want to ensure that it stays competitive and that the issue in terms of women, a representation in Parliament, is absolutely nil. If you take a look at the Katiba, that Constitution, millions of Kenyans ensured that we want not more than 2/3 of a particular gender represented in a committee. Why? Everybody should come to the table. And we take a look at that legislation was created specifically to ensure that the rights of women, there's also the issue of the youth and persons with disability that has been brought on to ensure that Kenyans are represented all over within Parliament where decisions are being made.
Okay.
Why are the men in Parliament refusing to ensure that that particular part of the Constitution is not met?
So let's look at some of the possible solutions. The Attorney General argues that yes, the deadline is 27th of August this year to have this legislation in place to ensure two-thirds rule is effected. But he also argues as Parliament, you could extend this deadline by at least 1 year. Why are we not exploring that avenue as well?
If you remember, the last court ruling was said to be progressive, and they were given a 1-year extension to ensure that it happens.
Okay.
The discussions have been going on, and when we take a look at the reason there's no agreement within Parliament is because they want to ensure that those 290 seats are maintained in a manner that they're exclusively left for men. But really, what we can do, I think, as Kenyans, we've taken a look and seen at the leadership. If we take a look at leadership within the country, it has clearly been shown that when we have women leadership, the results are better. So Kenyans need to take a look at... And what are you using
to cite that? What example can you give?
Look at sports. Women athletes within the country. Look at the performance even within cabinet. We take a look at some of the best performing ministries are those that are headed by women. Let us take a look at even within...
so arguably the best. Yes,
women...
There are those who would disagree.
Yes. The only issue that has been there traditionally, we are from African societies that are patriarchal, and women representation within Parliament or even in positions of leadership are not issues that women have come on out. So we need to create an environment that is conducive for people to elect women.
All right, so how do you see it best fit to ensure we meet this requirement? How?
We must maintain the gains that we've made so far within the Constitution. We need to maintain the seats that we've given, which is the 47 women rep positions within the Constitution. We need to take a look at the positions within Senate. Those gains that we've had, we cannot get rid of those gains just to come in with a new formula that will suit, and they want it to go through nomination. What we need to ensure is that we maintain those 47 plus the 16, then go on to a formula where we would be able to get the specific nominated seats to ensure that they're also protected. So from there, we can take a look at, if that means that we have 53 seats that are guaranteed for women, then let us take a look at how do we come up with the other 2/3.
And at what levels? Because we have the 47 of the women reps, then we have the is it 12 or 16 nominees right now?
We have 16 elected.
16 elected.
Six women that are supposed to be nominated within Parliament.
All right.
Yes.
So what do you want added to that?
Now to top that up now to the 2/3 gender rule. Yes.
Okay. You have the Speaker of the National Assembly, Justin Muturi, says scrap the women reps, scrap the nominations, just have these 100 special seats for women.
I want to make it very clear. When we take a look at the number of men who vied for positions within this country was 7,000. When we take a look at the number of women who vied for elective seats within this country, proportionally maybe have been about 1,000 something. But when we take a look at percentage-wise, in terms of those who vied, it comes out to equal amounts. So it shows that women essentially we don't want to close that position down to say that we can only nominate them and give them only 100 seats. No. Why can't we continue? Because we are expecting that within the next election, we'll actually see the number of women who are vying for seats increasing, simply because the environment now is conducive. Women have seen that it's important to come out and vie for positions. The electorate, I am sure Kenyans have taken a look and seen that, look, when we allow women into management positions, they do a much better job. So what we need to do is create that environment to ensure that more women are elected. But we cannot give up the gains that we have made in this country. 10 men cannot, within Parliament, go and decide that what the Kenyans want and have put within the Constitution. Well, you saw them on the legal committee, didn't you? Yeah. Right? And you've heard their opinions. In fact, it's almost threatening when they say that it will come back to this committee and they'll do exactly the same thing and they're not going to withdraw. We need to be reasonable when we take a look at some of these issues.
Isn't this proposal by Muturi, in essence, increasing the numbers even for the women up to around, say, 40? So in terms of the numbers we'll see in Parliament, they'll grow bigger.
They'll decrease.
They'll decrease
because 100 seats.
Yes.
When we take a look at the current particular, we have what, 80-something? So it would be about 140 or 153 that of the women that would need to be increased. His are only 100.
Oh, his are only 100. Okay, I get it now.
Mm-hmm.
So he also argues that whichever way the solutions they've tried to come up with to deal with this issue all increase these numbers in a very big way, and that's a problem Kenyans have had in terms even of the wage bill, that we just have too many leaders. So if we have a problem with this affirmative action, is it Kenyans come to the realization that if they're not willing to elect women, then they have to deal with the financing of this kind of leadership?
Let me put it this way. Why are we putting a cost on affirmative action in terms of the number of women that are coming in? Is it the same thing that we do when we look at, when we need to make certain changes within the country? Yes, we need to take a look at cost, but what is actually the current wage bill of parliamentarians? I guarantee it's not even more than 5–7%. So really,
sitting allowances that get interesting.
Sitting allowances, really, when you look at what Judicial Service Commission earns in sitting allowances,
Two evils don't make
yes,
a right.
true, but it's a joke, you know, 5,000 as opposed to 100,000, really.
Okay.
You know, let's compare apples to apples, seriously. And when we take a look at why are we putting a cost on things that we know, the reasons that we put those changes within the Constitution is because we want to ensure that we get more people and more decisions being made that are for the benefit of Kenyans. So if we continue this way, we're going to ensure that we close this particular chapter and ensure that there's only one voice that will be heard. And that is the reason why we changed the constitution, to ensure that everybody's voice is heard. So and what we need is executive level support.
So that's what you're calling on. You're calling on the president and the former prime minister to get their people, their troops, to rally behind your cause.
That's correct.
But the question here, however, is you've already seen the National Assembly Majority Leader, Aden Duale, coming out to trash what it is you're proposing. So if, as Majority Leader, he manages to get his numbers, which are the majority in both houses, to go against what your call is, and Chepkonga has his way, what next?
Well, I think it will be clear to Kenyans that truly they clearly elected the wrong people who are not interested in ensuring that the rights of Kenyans are heard. So while that may be the case, it will also be upon Kenyans to ensure that at the next election, certain faces don't return to parliament.
So your cause will be defeated. There will not be any other avenue, any recourse you can seek after that?
What we're hoping is that there'll be intervention before that takes place, to ensure that we start taking a look at why we are amending the constitution selectively. Clearly there are certain things that need to be done, but let's not ensure that the rights of women in this country are rolled back by a few men who are able to rally the support of their troops to ensure that that takes place. Yeah. And this is why this is going to now take leadership above the House. And I hope it's clear to all Kenyans the kind of environment that women operate within Parliament.
Let's talk about something that I remember came up at the devolution conference. One of the delegates saying, stood up and asked, are women their worst enemies? Because in essence, you have majority even of the elected voters being women. So why is it that it's so difficult to vote their own in? And you already have the numbers if the women in this country decided they could have their way. But you're saying patriarchal society. What else is it about our structures now that has made this such a debate now?
When you take a look at it, lack of resources. You can see that the main issue that has been had, especially we've been elected as county members of parliament. Under my county, I have 12 constituencies. Same salary of a single constituency MP. I'm supposed to be felt on the ground and go through every single one of those constituencies and be felt. When we put in affirmative action seats, let us actually not break the hand that we've put elected the particular women in. It's, when you take a look at it, some of those things are completely unfair. A man with one single constituency is able to go through various wards. I have 60 wards to go through. How many meetings am I going to? And on a single MP salary, really, how many meetings can you go to?
Are you saying if you have more money as salary, you will be able to do more work?
Not salary. If we're going to elect, if we're members of parliament, there's no member of parliament, they say that they should have a CDF kitty. Let's either do away with that kitty for the single constituency members of parliament, which they will not agree to, or all people who are called members of parliament should have a kitty, so that we can take a look and see how are these people working. Is it the same? Is it not? And we'll be able to gauge the effectiveness within the county.
All right, you brought in a different aspect, so we'll go back to my question later, but let's focus on what you're bringing up, the challenges you face in the positions you hold now, because even the nominated members, and perhaps that is why many will look and be like, okay, these ones have the nominated seats, there are these special seats for them that they elected, but we don't see much impact. At the end of those 5 years, you don't sit back and say, wow, what a performance. We just know woman rep Kiambu, woman rep Nairobi, and there's not real work. So you're saying it's because of
logistical challenges to be able to organize yourself to go through a whole county. When you take a look at the MPs, and there's a lot of, when you go down to the constituency, there's significant wars simply because there's supremacy. Nobody wants to hear that any other leader has been within the county to do any particular development project. So you find that, okay, what are we doing? Women reps are constantly looking up donor partners to ensure that they can be felt within the ground, go on out, ensure that whatever project, whether it's sanitary pads, bringing in issues that are relevant and touch the hearts of people. But we can only do that in conjunction with partners who are willing to work with us. Whereas a single constituency member of parliament has a CDF kitty, which they sit down and they're able to organize their meetings, they're able to fund them, and ensure that they can sit down with their electorate for all the wards, and they are able to be heard. Is it fair for you to make women MPs go through the whole county and ensure that they have nothing? Is it?
So a kitty is what would make you be felt on the ground?
It would help. It would go in a long way. You'd be able to...
What about the nominated members?
Well, look, it should be for all, honestly, simply because what is the purpose of affirmative action? We want people to see the effect and the difference of women leadership within the county, isn't it? The nominated members will, okay, you are nominated, so you know Kenyans. Kenyans don't understand the issue of you're coming to, yes, you'll come and talk to us, the question, umetuacha namna gani?
But then are you not fueling that same culture that we try to get away from, that of the members will expect this kind of money, rather the electorate, the Kenyans at the grassroots level, and so you have to come and give? Because what I'm hearing from you is that unless each of these elective positions have a kitty, then they are paralyzed.
If they have it, let's either take it, give every single one of them a kitty, or take it away from everybody.
Because we have nominated members now, even male, that are still very vocal, participate in terms of the issues of the country. For the women, not as much.
The women have been, and they've been very vocal, especially on the ground, and going to various meetings. But their impact, because most Kenyans ask, what is it that they do? Yes, you go to the same meeting with your member of parliament, they initialize some kind of development project, and you're there looking nice and pretty.
Okay, so back to the initial question, which was, what is it then in your reading about our society that makes it so difficult to elect females, in terms of we don't have any female elected senator or governor?
True.
And yet very many women are registered voters. So what in your reading is the situation or the challenge?
Let's go back to, we will probably need to do quite a bit of civic education,
okay,
to ensure that people understand, first of all, what the roles are. When you go to the ground and during elections, you find that what the men and what has typically been done is the men are there and they'll come in, but at the end of the day they'll round people up and they'll go on and give them a certain amount of money. We need to change that culture within the country. But are we going to say that we're going to progressively eliminate CDF? We should, make a decision once and for all. So let's not try to keep bringing in the issues of imbalanced, that what applies for women should not apply for a single constituency MPs, or those who are elected single constituency and those who are county MPs. Let's ensure that the playing field is level all at once. Whatever we are going to choose to do, we take away for all. In terms of representation for women, women are felt, and we do go to all of the, most of the meetings. When you call in the media, we need to cater for...
So the media are part of the people that are discriminating?
Well, we won't say discriminating, but when you give visibility,
now, are you not?
When you're giving visibility to women at particular events, which events? Take a look at the events that are covered. And some are given complete media blackout. Why?
All right, let's talk about, as we wrap this up, the civil society organization CREW is suing the Attorney General and the CIC. Do you feel the two have let the women down as far as this particular gender role is concerned?
Absolutely. I think there has been significant intolerance in terms of bringing the women's agenda. You can take a look and see the star in terms of, even the speaker, who is number 3 in the country, abolished the seats. These are elected members of parliament. They're not nominated. So why are we abolishing already progression that has been made within the constitution?
And CIC has failed you how, and AG?
The Attorney General, when you continuously keep moving the barrier to let us make it progressive, or ensuring that those particular agendas that are being pushed by male parliamentarians are effected, bite the bullet. And let's do what needs to be done in terms of, if this is what is required, then let us do what is required. We can't be a country that has gone in and implemented decisions to ensure that the two-thirds gender is met within the procurement law, is met in other sectors, but where it matters most in terms of representation, it's not being met.
It's not been met. We thank you for joining us this morning, and that discussion on the gender role. Sante will be definitely watching and covering this particular story.
Thank you.
Kabi, who's the Woman Rep Kiambu County, with us this morning on the two-third gender rule, enlisting a lot of debate in the country. Their appeal now is to the president and Raila Odinga to marshal their numbers in both sides to ensure that this draft bill that's been proposed by Chep Konga from the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee does not fly.